All right. My goal for next week, music, and then also get an iTunes. We're very close.
We're so close.
I
We're
so
so close.
I so hate having to wrestle with technology. It's like putting up an antenna or figuring out your computer. And I mean, I haven't even updated my new phone. I bought a brand new phone, and
Yeah.
then not everything transferred.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm walking around with two phones these days.
It's so much easier to do it that way.
I mean, I've only got one email account on here, and then two more
Yeah.
over here. And it's like, you've got to be kidding me.
No.
And who are you, by the way?
Oh, I'm Melinda McKinsey.
I'm Tom Wise, and thanks for stopping by and unpacking some shit with Wise and McKinsey.
That's right. On this Friday, we're very excited. Any updates on responses from our ghost in the last show?
You blew up the internet.
Right?
Double the viewership.
It was interesting though, because we're speaking about our last episode where I was talking like I always do.
Gesticulating.
And I was talking about my dad's spirit and things fell down on the table. So at the moment, it was kind of a funny little, oh, check that out, right? Ha ha. And then people said, you should look at that. So I went back and looked at it. And, my mind, I want it to be a ghost, but also I don't want to make things up. And then after watching it a few times, I thought, why don't I just go look in the room and see if the chair bumped the table, because that would give it away. I told myself if the chair was touching the table, then we're done. So I came in, it's like this far away.
Yeah.
It's not touching the table.
Here's another thing. I thought that perhaps, the picture is on an angle against the wall, right?
Oh.
Okay. I'm saying, does the base slide out and force the table forward? I'm saying that's a lot of weight. That table looks pretty substantial. I mean, that's the only other hypothesis. That's the only hypothesis I had.
Yeah, I had it. I didn't have it against the wall. I had a little like a snow globey thing holding it up. So it wasn't against the wall. It was just doing that. And so I thought, because I was doing this,
gesticulating.
But is there that much wind current from me? Because I had done it several times in the show.
Well, because I looked at the table, I looked at the tape and I exploded it. I went full size. I got a big screen, and
yeah,
clearly the table rocks forward.
Yes.
And then rocks back.
Yeah, it really does. It's so cool. So hopefully my dad will make a repeat appearance. I don't care.
The thing is floating behind you.
Drop down some feathers, have things blow up. It's so cool. We're open to any kind of signal you can send us.
Yes. That's it was crazy. So then I took the clip and I made it a little 3-minute clip out of it.
Yeah.
I also contend we had an audio bleep too.
I know. We did have a couple things, right? It's been interesting reading what people say, because I do want to hear what everybody says, so I'm not convincing myself of something. And it was interesting hearing from other people. Yeah. So
I did create that one little green thing that flew by.
You Christy did what?
Well, when your frame fell down, I reached over here and I threw something in front of the camera.
Right.
Like, what's that?
What was that?
I was pretending there was nothing. But the audio blurb where your dad calls out to you, he needs a sandwich. Maybe it was for something for a drink.
You know what would really freak me out is he always called me, well, always, I met him when I was 18. He called me kiddo. Now, if things are popping up with kiddo,
no,
I'll lose my shit. Because no one else calls me that. No one else has ever called me kiddo.
That's why I said if he called you dove or something, because that sounded like glove of,
It could have been love. It could have been love. I mean, that would be the most powerful word of all.
To blave.
So we'll see what happens. So what would you like to speak of today?
All right. Well, I mean, we talked about now we're the internet sensations. I expect Jimmy Kimmel to call any minute now.
I'm pretty excited about that. Why not?
For that, I can work that in my schedule.
Don't tell me with as crazy as the world is right now that ghosts aren't going to start appearing. Of course they are.
Get us off this planet.
We got to go.
Settle my spirit. I want to get the hell out of here.
I think that's fine. Yeah.
I unearthed two old topics.
Yes.
Short money and flowers.
Okay. All right.
You always
Short.
sound like an old girlfriend of mine when you say okay. She really means like that. I always translated that to okay. That's that's simple. You're simple, and I don't agree with what you're saying. And you
Really?
know, oh yeah, that's the direct translation. Okay, is that the best you can do? Okay.
Oh, interesting. That's interesting. I don't mean it that
Of
way,
course
but
not.
yeah.
But I mean that's how I interpret it. I don't think you're saying that. I think you're acknowledging. All right, that's a brick you brought to the table or to the wall.
Yeah. But again, it's interesting to me when you and I talk to each other. A lot of times we get along very well, but a lot of times we don't know what each other's saying and we think completely different
Right,
thoughts.
right. Now, see, I think okay translates to that's interesting, which means if I hear something and I say, oh, that's interesting, it means I could translate to the you're full of shit, or I really, because that's interesting doesn't say where am I on the good or bad scale of what I'm evaluating your statement. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, yeah, the dog just ran up the wall 27 feet, got the ball, came out. Oh, that's interesting.
Interesting.
Like, really, that's interesting.
I feel bad that you're saying that because I feel like you say that's interesting to a lot of things I say.
Here's my go-to. If I like it, I say very good, very good. There we
Oh
go.
shit, you hardly ever say that to
I
me.
say that all the time. I've never said that's interesting, unless I mean really it's interesting. But it's interesting is kind of like a little buffer to get you from one space to the next without making an official vote on the statement.
Trying to think
It's like you're okay. Oh, that's okay. Okay.
I'm trying to think if I have something that I say out loud when I really don't mean anything, you know, what it sounds like. And I think for me, mostly, I find it thrilling if you're talking to someone because everybody knows I'm a talker. If you just get real quiet,
Yeah, that speaks volumes. I'm not going to say something bad. I'm sitting on my hands, just like the old. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything.
right? And if you get quiet, the other person will talk more and say the things they don't want to say because people are so uncomfortable with silence,
And
aren't
they
they?
want to fill the silence, right? It was interesting. I watched back the our episode a couple shows back, and you
Yeah,
said you pulled out the card. What does the world need more of?
yeah.
And I watched, and I was silent for 10 seconds, thinking. And you didn't. You avoided the temptation to fill up that void and just let that moment sit. That was interesting.
I
To your
I
credit.
I truly wanted to know what you had to say, and I didn't want to interrupt you. You were clearly thinking.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that because you didn't go to an easy answer. You threw out oh, people would say this, but you took it a step farther, which I really appreciate. And I think that's what's so important in a conversation. I know I talk a lot. I know I interject. I know I interrupt. I know I do all those things, but I also listen.
That's right. That's key. I tell you, the improv background is key. Everybody should take a class. I was not familiar with the exact phrase third thought. Are you? Okay. So I've discovered that from improvisation classes, or I think Patrick McGinnis specifically introduced me to the
Yes.
idea of third thought, right?
Yes, yes. And Patrick was a very good teacher. I took a couple of his classes when I could, and I have to agree with you. Everybody should take an improv class. I taught some classes, and here's what I found interesting about it. People are afraid of it because they think you have to know stuff ahead of time and you have to purposely be funny. And it's the exact opposite of all of that, isn't it?
No, you just have to have lived, and can you take instructions? I mean, you see new people come into improv, and you can make mistakes. You can ask too many questions. You can go for a cheap joke. And once you're instructed to avoid that, I mean, I've had improvisational scenes that there's no humor. It's just we're reproducing a conversation a married couple might have. We're just
Yeah,
pretending to be different people. So maybe their jokes evolve, but you know, I mean, most folks think improv is going to be some sort of joke, and that's essentially it. You don't want to just a bunch of you're not turning into the Dave,
right,
mammoth scenes, but
right.
it's an interesting way to think about in your real life listening and responding, and also just not responding in a trite, predictable way. If you can, you should give a thoughtful answer. I remember my friend Daryl Knapp, our friend.
Our friend.
and we were talking about the third thought. He goes, all right, whenever the scene, it's a jail scene, right? Okay, all right, we need a situation, a space, and we need, a character. And somebody yells out, it's the county jail. He goes, 99 out of 100 guys will take a cup and rake the cup against the bars and say, you got to let me out of here, you dumb screw, right? He goes,
Okay.
that's the first thought. Then
Yeah.
the second thought is maybe you're the guy sitting in the bunk and you're yelling at the idiot who's raking his cup against the bars. And then the third thought could be you're the janitor that works at the jail and you're sweeping up or you're doing something else. So the scene is the jail, but now we're going to something different that's predictable.
Yeah, absolutely. If people take improv, I think it makes your personal life better because it does open you up in a lot of different ways. I taught a summer camp of teenagers, and then I also taught adults. Who do you think was easier to teach?
The kids.
The kids were so pliable and open, and I didn't think they would be because I am not a fan of teenagers. I think teenagers are very cocky and they talk back. I don't enjoy any of that. And I found with the adults, they were so afraid and so worried about doing something wrong in improv class, which once they got over it, it was tons of fun. But the kids weren't afraid of doing anything wrong. They'd try anything.
It's like, somebody hands you an instrument, it's not going to sound good. It takes practice. And
Right.
improv is practice. You just need to know the rules. I remember getting so frustrated at an adult friend of mine couldn't stop breaking the rules.
Yeah.
Every scene he'd enter, he's asking questions and he's going for cheap jokes. I go, you're not getting this at all. Because the scenes, that stops the scene when you say no, you ask a bunch of questions, and you go for cheap jokes. Stopping.
Yeah, and that will also stop any intelligent conversation.
Yeah, I say, now what? You've turned me into you've denied my premise that, you're blind, and now I'm an idiot? Is that where we go with the scene? Because if you're blind, you got to go with a stick, and then, you're asking me for help or whatever the next deal is. But if you say, I'm not blind, all right, then I'm an idiot. Now where are we?
I know. It's true. It's true. And I think most people know the phrase yes and. Mm-hmm. Yes and it's a very quick way of reminding people, because I've done that in other circumstances. If someone's like really coming down and very negative, and then I'll turn and go, and yes. And let's we can lift this up. Let's do it.
Yep. It's funny because I'm on like on Facebook. I'm like on a singles group.
Yeah.
I'm not there. I'm the occasional member.
Yeah.
And they had something about after someone gives you their phone number, how soon before you call them? That was the question of the day.
Oh.
And one guy's like, oh, I could never call anybody. I'm just too afraid. I mean, this is probably a 52-year-old man. And I'm saying, it'd be nice that, if you took an improv class, you might have an idea of what to start. Don't ask a bunch of questions, but bring something to the table, like what you've been doing all day, where you're from, what your plans are, what books you've read, so you can easily start a conversation like that and let it go where it's going to go. But just have zero skill to start a conversation with an interested stranger. It's like, that's a little sad.
No. Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I, when I was still living in Florida, I went on a Bumble date. I got matched on a Bumble date to a guy who had been...
Oh, Paula likes this.
A guy who was a widower, and he was a pilot, and he was the hot widower at our elementary school, right? So what made him even hotter is he wasn't dating. He was staying away from the ladies because he was raising his 3 kids. There is nothing hotter than that for us ladies, to find a man that doesn't want anything to do with us. We love it, love it, love it. And so I definitely thought he was super hot, but I was married at the time. And so I used to joke to the secretaries, because they would blush whenever he would come in the office, because he did not care about the ladies. He only cared about his kids. And I mean, that was just like catnip. Oh my gosh. So afterwards, the kids are grown up, right? My kids are in college. His kids are in college. We mashed up on Bumble, and I was like, oh, isn't that so cute? We go out to eat, and I say to him, because I was very active in the school with my kids, oh, I remember you from school, the whole thing. And he finally admitted that he knew me, but he had a weird way of, like, he didn't want to admit that, like, it was like he had that whole persona of, I'm not engaged. You know what I mean? So when he finally broke it down and admitted it, then I totally overwhelmed him with my life because he started asking me questions that you do on a date. And I was like, and I'm doing this. This is when we were doing the radio show. I'm doing the radio show and this. And then finally I look at him and you can tell he's like, he's out. He left the room. He's done. I felt it. I saw it. And he looked at me and he says, well, you do a lot. I'm more interested in retiring. And, and so the funny thing was, and you know what? That's fine. Not everybody's meant to be together. At the end of the date, I was like, well, bye. And he said, can I call you? Now, you tell me as a guy what that means, because he made it very clear. I'm doing this. Look, I bumped the table. Nothing fell over. I'm doing this. He's doing that. We're not getting together. Why would he say he wants to call me? So I thought it was weird. I said yes. In a couple days, he sent me a text, and he said he asked me to go out for New Year's Eve.
Really?
So I thought, okay, maybe I'm the safe date. Someone
New
fun.
Year's Eve, that's a very romantic night to go out.
No, I found it very confusing, but remember, he's catnip, and so I had to go. So I said yes, and then he said, he was doing something, let's coordinate. So I wait. It's like a couple weeks before. I wait, and I text him, hey, but nothing. I never heard from him again.
So he stiffed you on New Year's Eve?
He disappeared.
Wow.
Disappeared.
That's crazy.
At first I thought, he asked me.
It's rude.
It's super rude. It's super rude.
Eve, so if somebody else asked you out, you're not available.
Right.
Wow.
I thought he asked me because I would be a fun New Year's Eve date, even though he wasn't planning on dating me. We'd just have fun.
Absolutely. That's legitimate.
But I think, here's what I think.
Clear too.
Well, what I think is he wanted a guaranteed date to go to this party, so he booked me. And I think he got somebody he was very interested in. And instead of having the balls to cancel, he just ignored me, because that's the problem with texting. People will ignore you. So
crazy. So I had not nearly the degree, but similar. Met a person online, right? She says, hey, I'm not about texting. Here's my number.
Oh.
Fine. It was 5:00. So after I get settled, I call her on 7.
Yeah.
The phone just rings and rings and rings. Doesn't click into a message at all. Right. So then I text, say, hey, I just called, blah, 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 whatever. No response. The next day, I think in the text I mentioned something about the hockey game or whatever. I said, who calls during the finals of the hockey game? Because that's when I did call, right?
Okay.
So the next day was like, oh, no, I didn't watch the hockey game, blah, 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 whatever. And I text back, oh, all right. Hey, when would be a good time for me to call you? And there's been no response since 3 days ago.
And I don't know what that is.
I want to so text like, I'm surprised you're still single.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Show some respect. That's all you have to do, is a little bit of respect.
Why'd you circle back with a second, poke and then nothing?
I don't know.
And I'm at level 1 with all this stuff. There's no getting excited about anything anymore, because the bottom can fall out at any point.
Yes. I don't know to anybody that's a good dater. We all struggle with it. And then we all, when something that we perceive to go the wrong way, then we get in our own headspace about why it went wrong, right? We don't really know what went wrong. We're in our own headspace. I have to assume that guy died, and that's the reason I never heard from him again. I didn't see anything in the paper, but maybe he was in another country.
Pilot, ironically, run over by plane.
So, anywho, I do want to talk about flowers. You've been mentioning flowers for a while.
I think flowers. There's an admission of the cycle of life when you buy flowers.
Yes.
So that they're not gonna last forever. You can relate that to the dog or or your parents or your siblings or anything. Jobs don't last for nothing lasts forever. So grab a little bit of not grab a little bit of happiness, but when you buy the flowers, you're saying, I know this is not going to last forever, but I want to enjoy it while I can. I think that's an
Yeah.
interesting, it's a fun philosophy to kind of take through your day. Even like when you're interacting with strangers,
Yeah.
I've calmed down a lot.
You know what as far as interacting with strangers, I've applied a rule to myself to wait 24 hours.
Yeah.
If I really feel like I want to get in there because I'm a fighter, I have to give it 24 hours to see if I still feel just as strongly so I can
Right.
tap down some of the flames. And it works.
Of course.
It
It's
works.
always a mistake to fire off or whatever.
Always.
It's always like my daughter's friend trying to get into nursing school.
Okay.
And I think he filed something late, whatever. But but yet he circles back and he said, "Hey, is there anything I can do?" And they apparently said, "Yes, there is. You can do this, this, and this." And then he was waiting for the confirmation email, and the confirmation email says, "You're in third position. You're if three people drop out, you can come in." It's like you know he wants to fire that letter. What happened? You said I was in. You said I was this. I said that doesn't get you into the class. Feels good, I guess, to straighten someone else's
Right.
hashes out, or there was a misunderstanding and somebody did. I said, at the end of the day, you still want what you want, and
Try.
if it's
I
going to
try
that
not to
school,
burn
yeah,
bridges, right? Don't burn those bridges.
you need
Bridges are
help.
important.
Yeah, just try the old. Gosh, I'm sorry there was a misunderstanding. I still would love to, be part of the program. You know, can help
Yeah.
help me, Obi-Wan, because you've got no
Right.
say. There's nothing you can do to get in there. You can make. What are you going to try to get somebody fired or get somebody in trouble?
Right. You tell me in what scenario someone's going to read that and say, by God, he's right.
He's right. I'm wrong. Cindy, get in here. You're fired. Kevin, you're up.
That's never going to happen. I often utilize my sister in those kind of scenarios where a justice is a real big deal to me. And there's not a lot of justice in the world. And so when I feel like I'm on fire, I will call her because she allows me to spew my venom and relax. And then she has a way of really calming me down because she's very rational. My sister will really rationalize the hell out of it. And I like to come from feelings and emotion, like that feels bad, that how dare they? Why would you treat somebody like this? And then she'll say, are you surprised? Have you not always known this person's like that? Like, damn it.
Yep.
But it works.
Yep.
It works every time. And my poor sister, I would call her a lot on the dating stuff. And when I had red flags flying right and left, and I was bathing in them and wrapping myself up in the red flags, she would tell me, and I'd say, no, this is not a red flag. It's orangish. It's not fully red. And every time I was wrong, and every time she would very calmly say, what did I tell you?
I know it's crazy, but you have to have a little rationalization or a rational person around you when you're trying to when you're about to step on a landmine and blow something up.
Yes, 1,000%. You know what I'm very curious to do? Can we do something with our phones here? I want to try that Google thing that we talked about. If you open up your phone and just go to the interweb, open up.
All hail Al Gore. I'm opening the internet.
Open up the interweb and type in your search bar, because you live in Florida and I live in New York, climate change is. Climate change is. And then I want to know what yours says versus what mine says, because according to what we're reading on or what we're hearing on the social dilemma is that it's very different in each area of the country. What did you get? It's a bright, shiny screen. I can't see anything.
Well, it says climate change includes both the global warming driven by human emissions and of greenhouse gases.
That's the first thing that you see?
Yes, give me a definition of climate change.
So it's like a definition.
Yeah, from Wikipedia.
So you go to Wikipedia first thing? Okay.
You're asking me this, and I'm saying yes.
Well, I'm just confirming. So according to the show Social Dilemma,
right,
because of the algorithms, depending on what your search is on Google, and depending on what part of the country you live in, because everybody knows our location, you get different answers. My first answer is, what is climate change caused by? And it says the evidence is clear. It's caused by burning of fossil fuels and blah, 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 blah.
Elephant farts. Yeah, no, don't have that, dear.
So
NASA
yours just went straight to Wikipedia, which surprises me, because I thought maybe in Florida it would be more like, who cares what climate change is? Let's look at this. I thought that would happen. I'm a little disappointed.
I know.
There, see, yeah, it's the angle because of the lights.
Yeah. See, climate change is on the top. And then
is there
Wikipedia
a better, more interesting question we could ask? Because that's exactly the example they gave on Social Dilemma, was climate change is.
Well, you're like a lawyer. You asked a question that you didn't know the answer to.
I didn't want to know the answer because I wanted to be surprised. I really thought
now our ratings are plummeting. Can you shake that table again?
Yeah, I'll bump the table again.
What? But Dad's back.
What? I did ask my dad before the show if he could, do a little something. I made sure my chair was
vacuuming.
I'm ready. I'm ready for the magic.
Yeah.
Well, that was a little bit disappointing. I thought for sure it'd be very shocking.
I wish I had a sound effect.
Wah, wah, wah. But I had to try it because they were very clear on that show that how different things were. I didn't find that stunning or that different. Is the show a lie? Is it more fake news, Tom?
It's all fake news. I'm amazed at how many people are denying that our president has the virus. I mean, it's been reported on many reputable news outlets. And for people to come out and go, this is a fake, I go, they brought this on themselves. You end up with a population that just doesn't believe anything. Right.
I mean, you can't go out there chanting fake news, and then when you share news and people say it's fake, you can't be surprised.
Yeah, at some point, where do you go for your news?
Right.
It's easy to say when somebody says, I get it all from Fox or I get it all from MSNBC, everybody starts firing guns at their sources. Okay, well, where do you go for your news? I mean, what do you believe? At the end of the day, it's kind of an interesting question. I mean, I watch a lot of Fox News. I don't watch their commentators at night, but I watch their news, or the news from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. is just fine. As a matter of fact, I find that to be a bit more broad-based than the MSNBC and the CNN, as those two stations just seem to be politics 24/7. I mean, occasionally Fox will talk about something that's happening, a fire or some sort of event somewhere else on the planet.
Right.
I mean, back in the old days, news used to be compromised of, 4 different topics, And here's sports, here's local news, here's national news, and here's, international news or something. But it just wears you out listening to politics all day.
Right. I mean, I think we talked about this, never felt the burden of politics so much in my life because of everything that's happening. I will say, for my news source, I do read the New York Times and the Washington Post, and then I listen to
you liberal elite.
Yeah, I am. And then I listen to BBC and NPR.
Yeah, I like BBC. I like NPR. We haven't had a good Siamese twin splitting in a while. Where are those news stories?
I don't know. Maybe, is it possible
that they're all split?
It was all fake news, and there's never been any separation of the Siamese twins, and now it's coming out.
I told my girls, I said, you guys could maybe sew yourselves together.
Oh.
My twin girls. I said, how's that for getting some?
And then make one of them a Republican, one of them a Democrat.
And they're just punching each other.
What? So I will say, on my theory about the president having the virus, this was my first thought. So I know
there was one I was watching. I don't know if it was a meme or whether it was fake, but there was Siamese male twins. They shared a lower half, so they're conjoined at the torso, right?
Yes.
They're conjoined here. So they just had one genitalia.
Yes.
And one, rear end.
Yes.
And it was reported. The meme was that the one guy was a homosexual, the other one was not.
Does get your attention.
Yeah.
That is attention getting. So what were your thoughts when you heard the news about the president having the the corona.
I'm I'm not happy about anybody getting sick. That's horrible. Hopefully it passes quickly. Um, that's all I can think. I mean, he's out there in big crowds. I mean, who's surprised? I mean, I'm not going out to the old ball game with 20,000
Right.
people.
Right. Yeah. I saw someone post this morning that Trump was diagnosed with karma, which is kind
Yeah,
of
I
interesting
know.
because they're showing videos of him throwing hats out during one of his rallies. You know, I mean, that would be a real clear way of spreading the virus.
Well, I mean, he's in that danger spot. He's overweight. He's in his 70s. I mean, he's going to get the best care possible, right? And he's probably caught it as early as possible. So he's probably has a very positive prognosis. He'll probably be down for 14 days, just quarantine himself till it passes. But you know,
What does it say to our United States that the president, who's supposed to be the most protected human being in our United States, gets the coronavirus?
well, I mean, if you're not going to make people around you wear masks,
I know.
then there you go. You're not,
I,
hey, I can protect you. I can stick you in a bubble, but if you say no, don't inflate the bubble, don't make people wear masks,
I
then
know.
it is what it is.
No. Oh, that's one of his sayings.
Wow.
Oh.
Interesting. Interesting.
No, so here's my wild theory because I love wild theories. As soon as I heard it, I saw that he tweeted it. That was the first, he tweeted at 1 a.m. He's the one that first shared it. Okay, he is. My first thought was, okay, the Republicans aren't dummies. They're not dummies. They're not what Trump is a figurehead. They're not watching Trump going, what do? We don't know. He's so out of control. They're not doing that. So here's what I think happened. They realize he can't win. There's a lot of trouble. There's going to be civil unrest. If he gets the virus and Melania gets the virus,
Doesn't she become president if he dies?
you know what? Who does become president? I mean, no, I don't mean that. What happens to the election is what I mean. If he dies, what happens?
That's a good question. I think that the
Is the Speaker of
Republicans
the House?
what
Does the Speaker of the House step
become
up?
no, the vice president becomes president.
I'm going to assume he's going to die too, right?
Why would you assume that?
Because
Speaker of the House is third in position. Yes,
yeah, okay.
third.
So here's
Not
what I think.
Melania.
No, not Melania. Here's what I think. He's going to have the virus, so we don't have to see him for a minute. He's going to be tweeting. Someone else is going to take over his Twitter. They're going to start making him sound softer and nicer. He's going to disappear, and they're going to say he died. They're going to say Melania died too. They're going to go to Russia. Then he never has to go to prison. Pence can go into office, and they can flip the election. That's what I think is going to happen.
You really think that?
Yeah.
The conspiracy theories are running rampant
Yeah.
on the internet.
Think about it. If he pretends he's dead, he's a martyr. He's gonna get off on hearing all these people crying and so sad. He could have done so much more if he would have lived. I'm saying this is what he's gonna do. Don't be mad at me. Then he doesn't have to pay back the over $400 million he owes in a couple of years. Right? He won't go to prison because he's dead. Tell me I'm wrong.
Here's the theory I had before he had the virus.
Yeah.
This was kind of an interesting. If you're a religious Republican, as
Yes.
many are, right?
Yes.
Listen to this spin. Okay, this is my plan. So he pushes and he gets and his Supreme Court pick is going to become a justice. There's no doubt about that. Probably by the end of this month, like it or not. But let me just tell you, he's already now the religious right. They don't have to put up with his nonsense anymore. The really reason that they really like him is they wanted him to stack the Supreme Court with like-minded folks, which is his prerogative, which is his right. But now, once he's done that, let's go to Joe Biden, who's really a religious person,
Right.
and support Joe and get the country back on track. And everybody jettisons Trump after he delivers the Supreme Court to the religious right, they don't have to, back his nonsense anymore.
That's a good one. I still think he's going to fake his own death because the Republicans have had it with him. Have you not watched House of Cards?
Can I tell you one thing I wish would have happened?
Yeah.
Just very personally, I was a big fan of Ruth.
Yes.
Bader Ginsburg. Why do we have to announce that she's dead? Why can't she mysteriously go to she's going to Hawaii for treatment, and quietly nothing gets announced till after the election or after, you know what I'm saying? I mean, Ruth isn't she's not in the press every day.
Well, I'm going to say probably the main reason that didn't happen is because people that are affiliated with Ruth are decent human beings, and as much as that would have saved.
If you ran that deal by Ruth before she died, she might say, "Oh yeah, sit on this till January 18th."
If I was Ruth's granddaughter, I would have pretended to be Ruth. I would have dressed up in her clothes and gone to meetings and done whatever.
I mean, everybody knows that she was ill.
Yeah.
So for an ill person to go travel overseas or do something as a last ditch, whatever, they got some sort of blood transfusion thing going on in Germany.
Yeah.
She gets on a plane. Yeah. All right. She's there for 3 months. She's in some sort of,
right.
Not a rehab, but in some convalescent home, and she's recovering.
Don't you think what are the laws
for that plan?
Well, yeah, I didn't think of that plan. It would have been a good one to keep it secret, but then again, it's devious, and I really
it's not right, but it would have been an interesting thought.
It would have been a good choice, but I hope after all the ugliness, we're going to try to get to a better place, right? Aren't we going to try to rise up?
Absolutely.
I hope that we're not going to stay in the murk and the mire, because it's feeling pretty dark, and
we need one of your positive topics.
Okay. Oh, here's something.
Here's
something I have for you. I did have a topic on fear. We're not going to talk about that. We're not talking about fear. Remember earlier when we were beginning our show at like however many months ago, we talked about the questions that you ask someone to fall in love, but we never really dug into it.
Nope.
So I want to dig into it a bit. I know both you and I are familiar with the questions to fall in love, and basically what it is it creates an intimacy between you and another person, asking thought-provoking questions and not requiring a debate on the other side. I think that's probably part of the problem in a conversation is it goes back and forth. So if I say something particularly vulnerable and you punch back, then it makes it hard for me to continue to be vulnerable. This is just, I'm answering this, you answer that, and it's cool. So do you remember what the first question, because there's 36. The first question is basic. It's not a hard one. It's a basic question I think that we've all heard many times over.
Who's paying for this lunch?
It's close, but that's not it. It's if you could ask anybody to dinner, who would it be, dead or alive?
Oh.
Which is a good one. And
sure.
I know we've talked about this, but who is your answer? Who would you ask?
Patrick and I talked about this the other day. My brother Patrick.
Yeah.
And his question was, which musician would you have lunch with?
Okay.
And I said dead or alive.
Say okay. You don't like it when I say okay. Damn it.
I said dead or alive. He goes, oh, I didn't even think about dead or alive. So, and then his answer was Paul McCartney, which would have been, it's a great answer.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is, and this amazed me about his answer, is he would not talk to Paul about music. He was going to talk about Paul, he didn't want to be that guy that quizzes Paul about music. I said, no, I got questions. About this different songs.
Yeah.
Who dead or alive?
Yeah.
Well, the obvious ones are like Jesus or somebody, but I think to talk to somebody like Teddy Roosevelt.
Okay.
Somebody was person that had a lot of personal.
Wasn't he shot during one of his speeches?
He caught the bullet in his teeth.
No, he was shot. What
Well, he
happened?
may he may have been. I mean, he was not a he was a weak kid. He was gangly. He was sickly as a kid, and then
Wonder
he
if I'm
and then
wrong.
he kind of like Charles Atlas, like shaped his body and became a vigorous person, man of the Great West. He may have he. I kind
I
of have a vague remembrance of that,
Yes, I feel very strongly he was giving a speech. Someone shot him. He
and he caught
checked.
the bullet in his teeth.
No, no, no. He
Oh,
he got shot in such a way that he said it takes more than that to stop me. He gave a 90. I think I'm right. He gave a 90-minute speech. Then he went to the hospital, and they determined that it was too harmful to take it out, and he lived the rest of his life with the bullet in his body. And I'll research that, but I feel 90%.
but he was not allowed to go on an airplane because he set the detector off every time.
I feel like he was shot
I
during
that may be true. That'd be interesting. So that's my answer, Teddy. I want to know.
Teddy
I would talk about.
Roosevelt.
I want to thank him for carving out all that wilderness out west.
Hmm.
Yellowstone, Yosemite.
Huh. So that's the first question. The last question,
I'm sorry to disappoint you with my answer.
it's not a disappointment because there's no wrong answer.
It seemed that you thought that was a wrong answer.
No, there's no wrong answer. That's the great thing about the questions to fall in love, because you're simply sharing parts
now,
of yourself.
and now we're talking about hiking in the woods because I talked about Teddy Roosevelt. So that spurs conversation about that, right?
Yes.
Talks about we're talking about Montana,
See, there you go.
whitewater rafting. Mm-hmm.
That's part of having a great conversation. I think a lot of people struggle with it. I don't think you or I do. I think we like interesting open topics, and we will dig in. I like that about you, that you'll dig in and say stuff, and I'm like, well, I did not know that.
I
So
did not know that.
I did not know that. So that's the first question. It's a lighter one. It's a lighter question. They get more complicated and more sensitive as time goes on. And I know towards the end they have you gaze into the other person's eyes for like 2 to 3 minutes without saying anything, which is also, you tell me the last time without having sex that you looked in someone's eyes and said nothing, and for 2 to 3 minutes is a
That's a
long
long time.
time. No laughing, no mocking, but really, right?
Yeah.
What
3 minutes
do
is
you do that
forever.
with? So guess what the last question is?
Would you like for me to take you out on another date?
The last question is not that.
Oh,
The last question
like 2
is
for me.
you explain a scenario where you need advice, and you ask your partner's advice on how they would handle it, because it gives you a good introspection into not only how they resolve things, but how they would resolve things for you, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of times in life, I think it's kind of known that women will spew a lot of venom, and we don't really want your answers to it. We just would like to spew it and then move on, and men want to fix things. And
That's
so
traditionally the scenario, yes.
it's traditionally how it is. And your idea of fixing things is, we'll get rid of it or don't. And we like to marinate stuff. And you guys are like, well, if she's a bad friend, walk away. Well, but our kids grew up together, and we have stories and things that we make up. So I think having someone resolve an issue for you is an interesting way
Yes.
to see how
Yes.
you handle each other.
Or maybe the resolution is to let the person solve their own problems, but encourage them in the way that they choose.
Oh, aren't you trying to be the dream date? Look at you, Mr. Wise.
Hello.
So, oh, look, see, come on. This whole show is just about getting you to meet the ladies. One of the questions that you and I have talked about that was in the middle of it was, when was the last time that you cried in front of someone else?
I can't think about it. Maybe. I mean, it would probably be watching a movie, but I mean,
Yeah.
crying over some event with someone else.
They didn't say happy cry or sad
Right.
cry.
No, I mean, it's probably I was on the couch crying while we're watching TV. Something's happening. On the
Did a
couch
film
with my kids.
did a film come to mind, or
No,
no?
ma'am. Sorry.
I cry all the time. I probably cry a couple
Really?
times a day.
I cry. I probably cry twice a year.
It makes me feel better. It's not always a
There's
sad
nothing wrong
cry.
with it. There's nothing wrong
It's
with it.
not always sad. Sometimes, I think I told you this. When I'm feeling really down, I pull up the highlights from America's Got Talent, because it's when people have their moment in the sun and it's so beautiful. So if I'm feeling super down, I'll watch one or two of those to remind myself of like the human kindness in the world and of how beautiful it is when you see someone's spirit soar and lovely things are happening. So I will
Amen.
do that. But at the same time, like, if I watch the news, like I'll put NPR on Alexa and I'll be walking around and she'll say something that I disagree with and I'll argue with Alexa, like somehow that's going to resolve. But here's the scary thing about Alexa. I talk so much to her, she answers me back and says things. I was in the living room the other day and I was talking on the phone to my sister. I know you think this is made up, but it's real. I was in the living room. Alexa's in the dining room. And you have to say her name first to get her to respond, right? So I'll say, Alexa, what's the weather? Oh, 68 degrees, have a great Friday. She'll say that. Have a great Friday, Melinda. So the first time she said, have a great Friday, Melinda, my daughter's like, what the? Why is she doing that? And I'm like, I talk to her all the time. She understands, So I was on the phone with my sister and I said something about something being funny. And I didn't say Alexa. I didn't say Alex. I said nothing. And she piped up something about, well, funny is a personal perspective, Melinda. And I said, did you hear Alexa? Like, she actually spoke to me and Carol's like, turn that fucker off. I love Alexa. I think she's fascinating and scary. And listen, my phone's already lit. Everybody should know that the mic on your phone listens to you all the time. That's how you get your advertisements and stuff. So who cares if you talk to Alexa? Your phone knows so much more about you than anything else.
Amen to that.
Do you have an Alexa? Do you do that whole thing?
I usually ask for mapping. Mapping, map me to the hardware store, Costco.
Really?
Everybody knows the way to Costco. I almost brought in. I've got these huge. I don't know if they're mums or what that I bought at Costco.
Yeah.
They're dazzling. I like yellow. I'll bring them in Monday.
Nice.
It's a huge pot.
Very nice. Well, you would find it interesting if you want to talk more to Alexa. I'll say things like, "Tell me a haiku, Alexa." She'll share a haiku. I did ask her
I'm surprised my Alexa's not responding to your voice.
I know. I am surprised too. I've asked Alexa who's going to win the office of the president. She won't tell me. She knows. She knows.
Oh, let's see. Let me see if I can get. We're way overdue. I've got some work to be done.
Okay.
I'm finally landing. Gonna button down the Tractor Supply business. I think.
Yay.
We'll see. I've been saying that for a month.
That's okay.
Alexa, how do I make a squash tart? Ooh. I'm looking at a video about how to make a squash tart.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Alexa. That's enough. How do you make her stop?
You don't have to make her stop. She will stop.
I know, but what if this goes up for 8 minutes?
Oh, okay.
What do I say?
You say, Alexa, pause.
Alexa, pause. Thank you. I'm not fluent in Alexa. All right. I think that's our show. You ended it on a high note, didn't you?
I did my best.
I did my best. The perfect guest knew when to go. My name's Tom Wise.
I'm Melinda McKinsey.
And thanks for stopping by and unpacking some shit with us. And no, nothing moved in the back. No voices come out of nowhere. But it was a fun show.
That's right.
We're not going to do any more politics for a long time. Right?
No more politics.
Done, and done.
Bye, politics.
And have a great weekend.
Yes.
And see you on Monday.
Yeah.
Did I stop this yet?
Nope.
How about now?